Men who are in traditional female positions, i.e. elementary teacher, nurse, SAHD, what are some of the reactions commonly associated with your profession and S?
Oh man, men not conforming to typical gender stereotypes? Wouldn't know anything about that. Yeah, I know, whatever. People should do what they want and do the jobs they want, and I'm interested to hear how these folks are dealing with it, so let's go. Story 1. I'm a male teacher at a child development center, 1 year through pre-K, and I have parents who give me a hard time / harass me weekly. All of the parents who have been there longer than a few months love me, especially parents of boys who don't have adult males in their life. It's for low-income families. But the new parents always hate me for being a male teacher. I had a dad question me on how I am in charge of a classroom. What do you do when a child needs their diaper changed? You're telling me they let man teachers change little girl diapers? This dude skipped going to work and watched me for an hour, even watching over me changing his son's diaper to see if I'm a pervert or not. My aide actually left because she couldn't handle it professionally and almost told him off. He left before my boss showed up to help, but in the evening she told me he needs to register as a volunteer and do a background check if he stays more than 10 minutes. About 6 months later, he apologized and said he was glad to see I'm still there. I could fill a book with all of the times I faced discrimination for being the only male at work, but this guy sums it up pretty well. Males are pedophiles and perverts until proven otherwise in our society. At least he apologized later on. A lot of parents seem to just stick to their guns. This is pretty sad to hear, and yeah, you don't see a lot of male teachers below, middle school. I think you see some. I had one male teacher in elementary school, and that was 6th grade. And I think there was one more in my entire elementary school. But, I think that's something that should change, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and well-liked. Story 2. Years ago, I was hired to be a personal trainer at a gym, but it just happened that the girl who worked at the daycare quit that same day. So I agreed to fill the position until they hired another daycare person. At first, the mothers who brought their kids in were like deer in headlights when they saw me in there. Most of them asked questions about if I was qualified or understood how to act with kids, and all of them made a point to stop their workouts periodically to make sure I hadn't, set their kids on fire or something. I'd probably be more offended if it weren't for the fact that I really didn't know much about kids, but fast forward a week into the job and they all friggin' loved me. I gave the best mother effing airplane rides that very few girls could compete with. Once they saw that the kids really looked forward to hanging out with me there, their mothers relaxed and even asked for my schedule so their kids could visit me while they worked out. The only real downside was the fact that I ended up being good at the daycare meant that the boss neglected to find a replacement, and I never got to do any personal training at that job. I mean, cool, I'm glad that you did good at that job, but it does suck that you missed out on doing the job that you actually wanted to do there. That is unfair in its own way.
Story 3. I've been a stay-at-home dad for a few years now. When I first started, my girls were still pretty young. They were about 5, 3, and 1.5 years old. I can't remember how many times women made comments or did that passive-aggressive thing where they ask a child who can't speak well yet a rhetorical question aimed at me. "Oh dear, where are your shoes? Did Daddy forget to put shoes on you?" It's summer, lady. She's in a stroller. Or things like exiting the grocery store and an older lady comes up to me while I'm getting my girls to hold hands and look for cars in the lot. "Are you okay? Do you need some help?" I wasn't upset or yelling at them. I didn't look stressed out and about to lose it with my kids, but the tone of voice is the killer in these situations. It's pure condescension. The voice is in the upper register with a big fake smile, drawing out the words, all sing-song-like. This is the female version of mansplaining. I call it being an asshole. The moms that I'm around on a regular basis are all cool and don't do it, but it used to happen quite a bit. It must be that women think men can't adequately care for small children and babies. They feel like the subject matter experts and will insert their snide questions and comments to try and make someone feel inadequate or like they aren't doing a good job parenting. Basic butt moms. People regularly ask me if I'm babysitting or playing Mr. Mom just because I'm with my kids during the daytime. No, I'm just a dad doing dad things.
You know, when you see threads like this, stay-at-home dads always seem to get a bad rap. And that sucks, because there are so many great dads out there. My dad, I didn't live with him most of my life growing up. He just had me on Sundays every week. But man, he was amazing. My dad was such a good friggin' dad. And if anyone were ever to question him, I'd be like, back off. My dad's awesome. So, yeah, stay-at-home dads out there, you're doing great, I hope.
Story 4. Just got my BSN fresh out of nursing school. I currently work as a CNA while trying to break through to my first nursing job. My nursing class was about 65% female, 35% male, and that was considered high. A lot of people ask me when I'm going to be a doctor or if I've ever wanted to be a doctor. I have an aunt who's a pediatrician who straight up asked me why I want to be a doctor's assistant and why I picked a girl's job. I always thought she'd be more empathetic being a woman in what's seen as a male-dominated field, but I guess not. I get a lot of questions asking why I want to be a nurse. This is usually par for the course being young and out of nursing school, but I can't help but notice I get the question more than women. I also know a lot of people are genuinely curious and don't mean anything by it, but I can't help but get defensive when it usually follows the "why aren't you/do you plan to be a doctor?" questions. On occasion, I get requests by patients to not be taken care of by male nursing staff, which I feel is completely understandable. I can't say I'm totally guilt-free, though. I once shadowed on a unit where all staff was required to wear the same scrubs. I approached a Filipina girl and called her nurse only for her to tell me she's the resident. Healthcare is just very entrenched in its gender roles in general, but it's slowly changing. I've been to emergency departments where the nursing staff was majority male, but you still have your completely female-dominated specialties like OB, labor, and delivery. Nowadays, you do have more men becoming nurses and women becoming doctors, which is great, but it's still going to take a while for the public view to change. Story 5. Male nurse here. More often than not, patients and family think I'm a doctor. I always get a kick out of that as I've never wanted to be a doctor. I get hit on a lot. I'm an average-looking guy, but wow, some of the other female nurses I work with are very flirty. This pretty much sums up male nursing experience. However, I feel that the doctor stereotype is diminishing. At least where I am, there's tons of female doctors. I find the patients very flirty too sometimes.
I mean, you knew it was going to happen in this thread. Last two stories, male nurses. As someone who was a male certified nursing assistant for a little bit, I didn't encounter a ton of this, but I think because a lot of CNAs in certain places kind of get more of the grunt work stuff. But in my training class, very few men, and a lot of the actual nurses I met, not a whole lot of men, but you know what? It's a great career for either gender, and there should never be any expectation that you should have to be shooting for higher. Becoming a doctor is hard. Like, becoming a nurse isn't easy, but becoming a doctor is hard.
Story 6. I have a male cousin who's a preschool teacher. There was a petition going around to have him fired. He sued 2 people for going onto his town's forum and telling the town that he is a pedophile. Story 7. I worked at a craft store and was one of the only guys there with a mostly female customer base. While I was working the fabric cutting counter, I had a customer call a female coworker over and have her help, saying something along the lines of, "At least we ladies know what we're doing." Yeah, I totally don't know a thing about fabric despite both of my parents running an embroidery and printed apparel business and me working at the costume shop at one of the colleges I went to. Story 8. Male elementary teacher. Last year, a mom didn't want her kid in my pre-K class because I was a guy, so they moved her. Oh well. Other than that and some comments about how rare it is, there isn't much reaction. That's so lame. My favorite elementary teacher was male, 5th grade. Awesome guy. Had a class pet snake called Legs. Story 9. In college, I was chapel organist for an all-girls private school, a position which has previously been held exclusively by females. The interesting reaction was that suddenly there were more girls than ever signing up for chapel choir and private organ lessons. Organ lessons? Story 10. I'm a male preschool teacher with a big manly beard and a booming voice. I help in potties and do everything my co-teachers do and have not had one bad experience. In fact, most parents, especially boys, are ecstatic to have a male teacher in the room. One thing I have to be careful about is my tone and demeanor. I can be scary at times, I'm told. Also, I need to not get caught checking out all the attractive teachers, which is tricky. Oh boy, be careful with those other attractive teachers.
Oh man, big, burly, manly, friggin' preschool teacher. I had considered going into teaching when I was going to college. At first, it was going to be for English education. My dream was like high school or college level, because I don't want to read middle school writing. But the other thing I thought would be fun would be like teaching like preschool or kindergarten, because it would just be like playing with my nephews and nieces all the time. And I think that would be great. They would not learn very much, but we would have amazing story times.
Story 11. I work as an administrative secretary at a university. When I started here, a lot of the older faculty thought it was weird that a male would work as a secretary. They thought I had given up on being in upper management and settled for a lower desk job. Then they realized I was much younger than they thought and took the job for free tuition. We've got a male administration person in our department. He's a mathematician and was originally hired to do timetabling. When he isn't doing that, he does other admin stuff. Story 12. While it was temporary, I volunteered in a local primary school for a while as a teaching assistant in a department of literally about 20 females. They didn't even mention it, but the kids went berserk from excitement and all wanted to work with me more because I was a guy, so had different views of things, I guess. I'd go out on the playground and the kids started a big conga line behind me to follow me on duty. Now I'm a proper teacher in a secondary school. It's pretty good. Story 13. Male high school Spanish teacher. Only male in the department. Only white people in the department. The reaction can vary from intrigue, a white person speaking near native Spanish, to why is a gringo teaching Spanish to me? They've probably never heard of Spain. Story 14. As a male nurse, I tell my patients everybody wants a hot blonde female 20-something taking care of them. Well, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, right? Story 15. Stay-at-home dad for half the year. My favorite part is taking my son to the Applebee's I would go to when I'm working. Usually I'd come in dirty and sweaty and the female bartenders and servers would chat me up. Bringing in my son while dressed more casually ups the attention tenfold. Story 16. I'm a male Xray technician. It's about 70-30% female-male ratio, at least where I am. It's always funny when some guys' faces of all ages fall a little bit when I walk in the room because despite their injuries, at least they may get to look at an attractive female Xray tech, and now they can't. Where I'm from, 90% of Xray techs are burly guys in their 40s from former Yugoslavia. The remaining 10% are their wives.
Funny enough, I haven't had that many X-rays in my life. I think I've had like 4 or 5 X-rays in all of my years. But I think every single one was done by a man. So this wasn't even necessarily a gender stereotype that I knew existed. But I mean, I'm sure it probably does. Just, coincidentally, I just didn't have any. But, interesting.
Story 17. Male elementary school teacher. It's not a big deal. When I started, some of the other teachers and kids said they were excited to finally have a male teacher. The only negative reactions I've gotten were from guys who work in more traditionally masculine fields, but it doesn't bother me. We definitely need more male teachers. Story 18. I'm a male nurse. The only people who give me crap are the ones who really don't know what nurses do. They tend to shut up when I tell them that the army trained me to be a nurse. Nice. Story 19. Well, all the females in my office come to me to talk about each other. My brother in arms, 35 women, and me in the office. Story 20. I used to work at a daycare. I was not allowed to help a kid in the bathrooms or be alone in a room with a kid no matter the circumstances, but that rule didn't apply to the women. Though people are saying how fricked that is, I'm a male at a preschool and I've been accused of molesting a child.
Another one. Male daycare workers not being trusted with kids alone and stuff. And the problem I have is I've read so many of these different threads about absolute pure creepos in the world. And so I can understand how people might just have that immediate reaction like, it does tend to be more men than women doing this kind of creepy stuff, but I don't think it justifies treating the men in these positions like they're automatic creeps. I don't know if there's a better middle ground or what. I want kids to be safe, but I don't want people like this to feel like they're, unwelcome at the job they want to do.
Story 21. I'm male and worked in a daycare when I was in high school. Multiple mothers went to the owner and asked that I not change their children. I thought it was very weird at the time, but it worked out great for me. I just handed kids with dirty diapers or who had soiled themselves to female staff. On one level, that's super insulting, but on the other, that's a world of crap you avoided. Story 22. I teach gymnastics. I've had a few negative reactions and have gotten some stares, but once they get to know me, they usually love me. All the kids love me too. I love that job. Story 23. Home daycare provided for 15 years, stay-at-home dad for 17 years. My wife started working with me just a few years ago, but I've encountered some people who assume it's her job and I just help out, but that's kind of expected. The first mom, though, who sent me her children, she became a personal friend later, admitted to me that when she started her kids at my daycare, she told people, "He's great with kids, but if he ever touches them inappropriately, I'll kill him." Well, yeah, I would kill anyone who did that too, but if I was a woman, would they have thought that way? Probably not. Story 24. I work in a library. I'm told that's attractive. Must only be theoretical because it's been an 8-month dry spell.
First off, librarians are very attractive. I like anybody in the library. Man, woman, you working with books like that? I'm down. That's great. Second off, an 8-month dry spell is what's disproving you? Oh, no. 8-month dry spell. You poor thing. Oh, it feels so bad for you. If you can't guess, I've had longer dry spells than that, so shut up.
Story 25. Male nurses are pretty common today. I got told that I'd make a good doctor a lot, which seems to happen more to males than females. The best experience I've had with a nurse was a male nurse. He was calm and comforting and made me feel safe when nothing else did. Story 26. I'm a teen who works as a daycare staff member at the local Boys and Girls Club. It gives me job security. All of the kids love having a guy around. Story 27. I'm a male English teacher in secondary school. The only reason I say this is due to the fact that as a teen I only had female English teachers. My school has 4 full-time English teachers, all of which are male. There's a bit of venom thrown at us by female counterparts, and same as others, no student alone in the class, and I'm very careful when discussing some ideas like intercourse in Gadsby. Story 28. I worked in a ceramics art studio for a good 5 years while in college, one of those paint-it-yourself places. We would do birthday parties, and about once a month, I would have a mom ask for a female coworker because they can connect with the kid better. Yeah, okay, don't mind me over here being able to recite Pinkalicious forward and backward.
This whole story was just a roller coaster from start to finish. My only knowledge of like ceramic arts and pottery and stuff like that is my mother. She does pottery. But I'm really obsessing over the fact that you know how to be able to recite Pinkalicious forward and backward. I don't even know what Pinkalicious is, but I want to know. Enlighten me.
Story 29. I only just realized every teacher I've had from kindergarten to grade 6 has been female. Today I learned elementary school teachers are indeed mostly female. My elementary school had about 60 teachers, of which only one was male. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.